Do you guys want to get into these new rules that they're talking about, like the potential for 6 fouls, the fact that we're not going to have quarters, like
explain that to me, please. I was going to say, like, I wanted you to explain this to me thoroughly. These new rules.
I don't know if I understand it. The term. So Matt Norlander of CBS Sports did a lot of reporting on this, and he used the term quasi quarters because apparently there's too much that college basketball is the only level of basketball where we have 2 halves and we don't have 4 quarters.
Yeah.
The reason why we can't go to 4 quarters is because there's too much money tied up right now in TV deals that require 5 television timeouts per half in a sport with that's amateurs, that's just student athletes, that's not a professional, that's not $1 billion industry, right? So we can't go to quarters. So what they're going to do is try to create this is the term that Norlander used, quasi quarters, to be able to reset fouls at 10 minutes of every half.
That's just stupid. Just make it quarters.
Just the dumbest thing ever. Just make it quarters. Find a way to everything is negotiable. Everything in the advertising business is negotiable. You can find ways to make it work. Stop worrying about just the money. Start worrying about benefiting the game.
I mean, geez, like, how come we're the only people that don't use our? I mean, I kind of look at college basketball as like a farm for pros. Why don't we do things to prepare our guys for what they're getting ready to go to if they have the opportunity to go to NBA? Like, why are we not playing? Like, why are we not doing 24-second shot clocks and doing all the things that they do so we can prepare these guys? And it's just like, it's just little basketball stuff. It's not like this major jump. Now, I'm not saying throw in a defensive 3 seconds for these guys because that changes. I mean, I would love to have that added in college, but that would literally change a lot of what coaches do for what they do for their programs. Like Jim Boeheim and these guys would have to find new ways to do their 2-3s and stuff like that. But everything else, I don't see why they don't just incorporate these rules from the NBA. Maybe not the newer rules that they're trying to implement there, but it's ridiculous, bro.
Yeah, but before you even go to the NBA, let's look within your own sport. And in the midst of all the powers that be that are screwing up women's basketball and have a lot of work to do to improve the sport, the best thing about women's basketball is that they are in a quarter format. And I'll tell you why. The quality of play has improved in women's college basketball. It has. And if you disagree with me, I would ask you, watch a Sweet 16 women's basketball game. Watch an Elite 8 women's basketball game. And you will see how the sport has benefited from quarters. Quarters helps pace of play.
Yes.
Quarters helps. I think quarters actually helps coaching. Having an actual stoppage before halftime, a real one in between a quarter, there's a mentality thing there. And I thought that women's basketball, even with faster games, the sport improves. It just does. And I thought that there were several times where men's and women's basketball tournament games were going on at the same time, okay? And I thought that the women's games might be talking a little bit more about the men's games. But, Rob, there were times when we were watching women's games, too. And I think I remember you tweeting one time, I forget who it was the Connecticut-Baylor game. Yeah. Connecticut-Baylor was happening during men's games. And everyone's like, there's no question what the best game of the night was. It was Connecticut-Baylor. Yeah. The style of play, the physicality of play, the pace of play. You have your living example within your own sport. The ladies play it, and it has worked extremely well. And you know what I say to all the people who say ad space and we're used to the halves? Well, you know what? Adapt your game. Prepare your players for the pros. You want to talk about ad space? All those network groups that they've got you on, put in a 20-minute post-game show or put in a floater show. You can get your break times in then. You can always find ways to get your advertising sold. And you know what?
Add an extra 2 minutes at halftime.
One more thing.
Add minutes to halftime, add minutes to the quarter breaks, add minutes to the TV timeouts at the 5-minute mark. Instead of
you have your 5 minutes.
Make it be 3:30. At the quarter break, make it be 5 minutes, right? You have all of the ad time in there. You can make this work. They just don't want to.
And here's the other thing.
Is because the contracts say, like, okay, we're going to get this ad at the under 12 timeout. But you know what? All of that shit is negotiable. Yeah. And you know what else? You are supposed to be an amateur sport, but you're not making the most sense.
But if you play quarters, guess what else happens with the pace of play? And I firmly believe this. Then instead of the Kansas Baylor Big Monday game will be starting on ESPN News, and you can watch this game after the conclusion of overtime between Clemson and Duke. Like, by playing quarters, you're going to run into less, hey, we have to push this tip time back. So if you want to talk about selling ad space, you might be able to have more ad space created because you're actually starting your freaking games on time that normally don't always start on time. And then we have to wait and sit around and watch some meaningless Big Ten or ACC game before maybe a even bigger second game in a doubleheader. So I don't understand why you don't go to quarters. But if you do go to stupid quasi quarters, like let's say that they don't want to go to quarters, I am in favor of resetting fouls, and I actually am in favor of 6 fouls. I am so sick and tired of games getting jeopardized at the end because some kid fouls out because an official just calls fouls the entire night. And as a result, we got kids in foul trouble, and the game ends up not playing out the way you'd like it to. So I, for one, I know that it didn't work when the Big East tried in the early 90s. Times are different now. The rules have changed. I'm in favor of adding a 6th foul, and I'm in favor of resetting the fouls. I'm tired of free throws, guys. Guess what? You know why I'm tired of them? The kids don't even make them. The kids don't even make the free throws.
No, you're right about resetting
with
free throws. Like that should be something that's unquestionable.
Yeah, but that's why they should do the quarters, though. That's why the quarters should be done. Like, it's ridiculous.
The big thing for me is the watchability of the games. Like, when you watch the women's game, the flow of it was so much better. And like,
because it's something you're accustomed to. Like, this is what we've all done. Like, everywhere since you grew up as a kid to up until you get to college, you play 4 quarters, and then you go to college, and then you leave college and you play 4 quarters. Like Fanta said, the pace of the game is extremely different. Like, as a player, I couldn't mentally, like, you play your games, like, no problem. You're out there, you're running, but you don't really get a full tell of how the flow of the game goes. Like, as a pro, it's like, all right, cool. We didn't do what we need to do the first quarter. We need to focus on knocking things out the second quarter so we can have a better finish to the first half. Things like that don't really, like, the game's still going. Like, the first half is still going in college. So you don't really get, it's not as something that you would hear as many times from a coach. All right, the first 10 minutes were this. Now, like, that's not the lingo for the most part in most places.